Apropos suksesser, altså, du har jo sånne selskaper som Spotify, du har sånne som Eriksson, du har sånne som Darja Smite, seniorforsker i SINTEF, som driver på å forske på de her store selskapene. Spotify har blitt tatt opp flere ganger her. Darja nå, hun skal få lov til å dele noe av arbeidet med oss. Hun har vært på innsida. Vi diskuterte litt på om jeg skjønte det du skulle si. Sånn at jeg nå på en måte sier ingenting, da. For at jeg hadde feil, jeg prøvde 3 ganger, hadde feil. Sammen med Darja da, som her i stad. We're going to take this in English, right?
Yes,
yeah.
but
the stage is yours.
I actually understood everything you said, Axel.
Yeah.
I've been working for...
Yeah, give her a round of applause. Yeah.
I've been working with SINTEF for a number of years now, but I still am hesitant to speak in Norwegian. But I said once I will memorize everything and talk and surprise my gang in SINTEF that I can deliver a talk in Norwegian, but not today. Today I'm going to talk about communities of practice, and I'm really, really happy that Yvonne from NAV brought this up. And I will refer a lot to what you said, so thanks a lot. Yes, so how many of you know what communities of practice are and what you do? Not many. Okay, this actually, you know, we talked with Axel that he will actually present me as best for the last. Which you didn't. But then again, I think communities of practice is reserved best for the last, as a last step of agile transformation and implementing agile practices. And I think they are very misunderstood, very too little attention given to communities of practice. So communities of practice are groups of people who share the same concern or a passion for what people do, and they want to improve how they do it together by interacting regularly. So I guess it's not worth asking the questions how many of you succeeded with communities of practice, and in my experience these are not many companies actually. And when I deliver a similar talk, not in 15 minutes but like 3-4 hours, a lot of people nod and say, oh yes, we've been there, yeah, we recognize those problems. And basically, to tell you a little bit a short story of why communities of practice fail, it's a very typical scenario that the large organizations jump on the wagon going to called agile transformation and say, yes, we'll use SAFe that will help us to transform our organization. And SAFe is structured. There is a box for this, a box for that, and communities of practice is one of the steps that you also need to take because it's one of the instruction points, right? And yeah, managers say, now this is the last step, we need to implement communities of practice. And that ends up being very often a top-down directive, very often also created as mandatory membership with a purpose-disciplined communities of practice. For example, a community of practice with the product owners or product managers, trying to improve how product managers or owners work in an organization. And that is not very self-organizing or self-managing. So the spirit of communities of practice highlights the spontaneous, creative nature of communities of practice and was supposed to be a self-organizing bottom-up initiative, which I have seen in organizations, but not in many. So how to ensure that communities of practice are self-managing or self-organizing? Well, let's start with how to implement communities of practice. One alternative to the top-down approach is to first realize why you're doing it. And the answer cannot be because SAFe teaches us to do that. So one has to search for a purpose for communities of practice, and then combine the trigger from the management with the interest from the potential members of communities. So it needs to be a blend. It cannot be entirely bottom up, because communities of practice highly depend on sponsorship in terms of having time to do this, because it cannot be a hobby on top of all your duties. So now you are nodding. I like that. What communities of practice need are three basic things to start: a clear purpose, and expected value and results, and sufficient level of granted authority. And authority relates to these hours that members get to work in a community. All right, so some ideas for you to search for purpose for a community of practice might start with reading books together about how to do product management. All the books that Yvonne has recommended, I think, could land in a community of product owners trying to understand how to upskill or reskill their members. And that is one of the prime misunderstandings, not misunderstandings, but undervalue of communities of practice. We should go beyond learning and try to have communities of practice as arenas for decision making. If we equip communities of practice with authority to make decisions, then they will take decisions. Arenas for collaboration and arenas of support are other purposes. And let me introduce you, because this is a very academic language. What I've done in my research, I've tried to translate it to something that is easier to understand. And these are the 4 community archetypes. So the community of practice that has as a purpose reskilling and upskilling the members is a book club. And a book club typically reads books, but also can introduce seminars and lunch and learn seminars, invite authors of the books to visit the communities, to discuss things, and that's the main purpose. And if we go further to the right, let's take this community of practice. The other archetype is standardization committee. And these are typically communities that want to implement alignment of the practice across the organization. For example, this could be aligning architectural decisions across the product organization, or standardizing the user experience in different parts of the product developed by different teams or different units. The open source society is some people who can develop, streamline the development and utilize resources in a more effective way by fostering reuse. Let's make develop the components that can be used in different parts of the system and make them internal open source. That's another archetype. And the 4th is a support line. And the support line community is the one that is helping out more junior developers to become experienced, to gain experience. And I'm sure once upon a time you have been new to your role and you have been stuck in doing something that you are not accustomed to do. So what did you do? You asked a colleague to help. But sometimes, and especially in the times of working from home, we don't know who knows what, we don't know where people are, and we don't know how to approach them. So this archetype comes from a very interesting guild in Spotify, which has hundreds of members, and 40 simultaneous members would monitor a Slack channel where junior developers can ask questions and get unstuck with the help of the experience from the more senior developers. So now we have covered the first bar of the success factors. There are 14 different success factors for implementing communities of practice. And of course, the beginning to succeed with communities of practice starts with a purpose, direction, value that you want to create, results that you set your communities to deliver. But you also need leadership support. So a passionate leader inside of the community who supports the creation, unites the people around one idea, clarifies the purpose, searches for the members and interest in the organization, and drives the community work. And here you see that the leader also needs some support with dedicated time to do community work. Next are the members. We want to have representative membership, especially if we take decisions that are important for the whole organization. We want a stable core in the community of practice, the core that drives the agenda, and it's not one leader who is responsible for the whole community. I have actually attended different community sessions, and the most confusing one is when 95% of the time of the community meeting, only the leader is talking. Now you're nodding again. So you've been to those community meetings as well. Motivated members with dedicated time for community work. It's easy to motivate people to join the community. And then you have this hype curve of escalated commitment, and then you realize, oops, this actually requires me to do things. And then if I don't have time for community work that is inside my work hours, then it's quite difficult to prioritize it. And this is one of the reasons why communities of practice die out. So dedicated time is as important as the motivation. Active participation and contribution. Of course, we depend in communities on the member contributions. Next chapter is activities and tools. So although some of the archetypes like support line do not depend on interaction, which is meetings, some sort of interaction across the community is important, and one type of interaction can be a support line, a Q&A channel. Another one is yearly conferences that the communities do, or activities like lunch and learn seminars with engaging agenda. So agenda needs to be engaging. And actually, this is a tricky point. Some communities set for a common denominator, something that could be of interest for everyone. But there are not so many topics that interest everyone. So sometimes we also have to opt for important, urgent topics that are important for few people in the community, and not just something that interests everyone. Pre-booked or fixed schedule for meetings and activities, and supporting tools to create transparency, so that even those members who are not active and not coming to every single meeting in the community can benefit from their membership by tagging along with or keeping informed about the happenings in the community through a channel where you can read what happens, what will be on the agenda next time, what has been discussed, which type of decisions have been taken, and what is the deliverable, tangible deliverables, and how they have been used in the company. And last but not least, outcomes. So delivering something for the company is important, and this creates the purposes in itself, so that members are motivated to engage, and also the management of the organization realizes the benefit of cultivating communities of practice. And why should you trust what I say? Well, I'm Darja Smite, and I have been working with communities of practice in Ericsson, Spotify, Handelsbanken, and a non-IT company that joined an agile transformation, Dunapac. Thank you very much.